Hello, so I just beat Shin Megami Tensei 5, or no, not 5, Shin Megami Tensei 4 on the 3DS, and I wanted to record some of my thoughts about it like I did with Devil Survivor 2. Um, let's see. So I just beat it. I thought that it was not as good compared to the other games in the series that I've played. So far, I've played Devil Survivor 1, 2, and Strange Journey. Um, and yeah, I, it didn't really capture me like Strange Journey did. So, like, for some examples of what I didn't like, I didn't like, I didn't think that any of the routes really seemed interesting. Well, I guess not really typically, but because I've only played three of the games, and two of them don't even really have like law neutral chaos routes. Um, but in Strange Journey and in Devil Survivor 2, I went with like kind of law similar routes. Well, in Strange Journey, I did law, and then in Devil Survivor 2, I did Ronaldo's route, which is very similar, from what I understand, to the typical like goals of law oriented protagonists and characters. But in Shin Megami Tensei 4, I went neutral. I did that because I thought that the like theocratic hierarchy of the Kingdom of Mikado was totally bullshit. I didn't buy it even for a second, and I don't think that I guess I don't really know the character. Um, in Mikado, which is like the place that the first part of the story takes place, it's established that there are the casualry and the luxurers, which are basically just like the upper class and the lower class. The upper class are they have more power, and the lower class are basically like farmers and workers. It's basically just like the proletariat and the bourgeois. Um, but like it seems like it's maybe more like a feudal society. They don't have like again they don't really have like democratic elections or whatever. It's not really super well put together. Um, but I thought that the beginning of the game was very strong. I thought that the way that it like feeds you information is really interesting, with like introducing the black samurai and the literature that she introduces, um, which basically is like, oh, the system of luxurers and casualry is oppressive to the casualry, and it's totally bullshit. And I mean, I agreed with that stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, it's like very basic. It's like very basic, which is totally fine. Again, I think it's really interesting the way that they build the world. I think that the introduction of Naraku in the very beginning of the game is like really well done. I think that the beginning of the game is incredibly challenging, which I liked. Any encounter is kind of like, it could place you at death's door. Um, Although I have some things about the revival system that I'm going to talk about later that I wasn't really a big fan of. But I think that the first couple fights with the Minotaur and Medusa, like the first couple big boss fights, were really interesting. They really help you get like a feel for the mechanics of the game. This uses the press turn system, which is in Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. It's not in the Devil Survivor games, although it kind of is. They have like a similar thing to press turn, but it's kind of different. I think I talked about it in my Devil Survivor um, talking video. But basically, like if you hit weaknesses, you get extra turns, and if you hit things that an enemy like nulls or drains or repels, you get turns taken away from you. So it kind of benefits you to like either get crits a lot with moves that have high crit rates, um, or whatever else, or hitting weaknesses. Yeah. Um, let's see. I didn't really. But I thought after Naraku and once you get into Tokyo, which by the way is kind of a big twist in the game. By the way, spoilers. You get into Tokyo eventually, and at that point, the game gets so much easier. Um, the challenge quests are not super interesting. It's kind of just a lot of running around and doing like typically very easy battles. I don't think I did everything. I don't think I explored everywhere. I definitely didn't do all of the challenge quests, although since I went with the neutral route, I had to do a lot of them, and I will again get to that in a little bit. But what else? What else? What else? Uh, I liked the characters a lot. I thought that Jonathan and Walter were both pretty interesting. They're like I don't remember which is Jonathan and which is Walter. I think Walter is the chaos route guy. I'll probably put like the meme of his face from a low angle as the video thumbnail. Um, and then Jonathan's like the law route. He's like a luxurer, and he's like very much like, oh, I love God. I want to enact, because typically law is like enacting God's will, which is basically just like uh, how do I want to put it? Well, in this game, again, it's very like hierarchy based. It's like the system of luxurers and casualry, like predestined positions that God places you into, is like where you belong in this world. And I think that that's fucking bullshit. I am an atheist myself. I don't really believe in that. But I also don't think that the total like might makes right um system of law really makes sense either. And the game kind of tackles that. It kind of tackles the flaws with those problems. Um, like about two-thirds into the game, you explore. It's called like Blasted Tokyo and Infernal Tokyo. Blasted Tokyo is what happens if like law wins basically, and Tokyo's like a fucking wasteland. Like it's been blown to smithereens. Um, and God has literally like put on Earth like this machine that basically poisons everybody to try and kill all the like humans and demons that survive. And that's kind of a thing that happens with not necessarily law sometimes, but like Shin Megami Tensei games in general, where it's like, yeah, God kind of realizes that the world is bullshit, it's full of all these problems, but his solution is to just wipe the whole fucking slate clean and like kill everybody and start it over with. So when you go to Blasted Tokyo, like nukes went off everywhere, and it seems like God had some part in it, or Yahweh. Um, yeah, God, basically. Um, and yeah, like all the countries were nuked to oblivion. You don't really know if this is the case with everywhere else, but it seems like it's the case with everywhere else. They say that America's probably in a similar state, and like China is in a similar state, but you can't really see it. It's just kind of assumed. Um, and then on the other hand, you have Infernal Tokyo, which is just constantly like it's like still a city. It's not like blown to smithereens. You can still find like people living there, but all of the people that are living there, again, because it's like there's like a big fucking glare on my face, because of all the people, because like might makes right, and because like demons are very strong, and also demons eat people. Um, Humans are basically split into two different categories. The first category is demonoids, which are like half human, half demon fusions. And The second category is nourishers, which are like just people who get their brains sucked out by the demons and the demonoids all day long. So it's kind of a bullshit situation either way. Um, and really, that's the only thing that makes like that is the only thing that makes neutral seem like it's the best option, is that the other two, everybody's basically dead or in a system where, while the hierarchy might not be established by God, it's established by like brute strength or cunning or whatever, it's still like this established hierarchy, and if you're not at the top, you're basically fucked. And I think that's bullshit. And so I had to go. I went with neutral instead. That glare is really pissing me off. I went with neutral instead, which the representative for that is Isabeau, who's like a totally fucking like. She has like no character. She's just like, I love manga. That's like her main character trait. She like very much cares about people, and when she finds out that there's like humans in Tokyo that want to ascend to Mikado, and again, Mikado's like another level of the hierarchy. Like everybody on Mikado was basically chosen by God. It's kind of like a fucking rapture. Like everybody there was chosen by God, and everybody in Tokyo is basically like in hell. There's demons down there. Again, shit's constantly on fire. It's not a great situation. Um, and at the end of the neutral route, you destroy the kingdom of Mikado, which is basically like another level of ground above Tokyo, and Tokyo gets life again. Or light, sorry, sunlight again. And I don't know, it makes it seem like everybody's happy, like Tokyo has a guardian deity back, but I don't really see how it's better for Tokyo, because even though you defeat Lucifer, and even though you defeat God's chariot and stop him from like killing everybody in Tokyo, it it's kind of like anticlimactic. Like, what's going to happen to all the demons? What's going to happen to all the people? You don't really know, and you don't even really have an idea of what to expect. And, um, so yeah, I think it's interesting. I still think it's interesting. I still think that the story goes in interesting places. Like, I do like the bit where it's like, oh, you're about to power up the reactor, and instead you get talked to and said like shown like, oh, this is what could happen if you side with law. This is what could happen if you side with chaos. And I I think that that's really cool. I think that the concept of like the people that are showing it to you, who are like kind of the people from earlier, they're like characters from earlier in the game. They're called the Whites. They're like basically just like, it seems like they're like different versions of your character who have tried the same shit you have and eventually failed. Um, because the game itself is also like, oh yeah, you constantly have to fight if you like want things to keep going well, because the same mistakes will happen again, the same issues will keep popping up, but you just have to be like vigilant against them. You just have to like keep shit heading in a good direction, and you have to like, and there will always be people who are willing to fight for something new, something different. And yeah, I think that they're brought up in an interesting way, but I think that they're not really answered satisfyingly. And again, that was kind of a problem that I had with Devil Survivor 2. Um, but I think that also totally makes sense for what Shin Megami Tensei is going for. Like, you have to make your decision, and you might not know what the consequences are. You just have to, like, deal with shit as it comes up. And I really like that. I think that's really interesting. I think it works in some ways and doesn't work in others, depending on what kind of story you want to go for. To get back to the gameplay a little bit, I thought that the game was pretty fucking not good though. I thought that it was not good. I thought that it was very easy. Um I thought that it was very easy. I I I made my main character, and I made basically every demon I've used too. Like very strong on like physical skills. And outside of like a couple boss battles, like Seraph, which it happens like way near the end of the game, and when you're going through Lucifer's like Morning Star Hall, again at the very end of the game, there's a lot of demons there that repel or resist physical, like Rangda and Fafnir, that are kind of difficult to deal with. But like basically every boss can just be taken out with strong physical hits, or yeah, strong physical hits, and like buffs and debuffs are super super helpful. So I beat the whole like final game with like my main character, one really strong physical demon, which was Quetzalcoatl, and Rangda and Doulahan, just to like spam buffs and then spam really high powered physical attacks, because these guys don't take a lot of damage from physical attacks, which basically every enemy uses. Um, every boss uses. They use like really strong physical attacks, and then like all the magical attacks, you can just get like one demon that knows Makara Karn, which reflects magic, and then you're basically good for the whole game. And I beat it. It's really fucking easy. Um, but it's just tedious. It's just a lot of tedium. Like you have to fight these bosses that are super easy. I beat every single end game boss except Seraph, which again just has like this gimmick where it can reflect everything except for one element every turn, and then you can break it and then do some damage to it. And that one I got on my second try. Again, it's kind of, that one's kind of difficult because it can repel everything except for like one thing, and then it like resists physical and gun and a couple other skill types. Um and then it can spam like basically every element. Like it can spam really strong elemental attacks at everything else. So that one was kind of a hard boss. But again, I got it on my second try because you can just hit Makara Karn and then have like demons that repel physical, and then you just beat everything. You just beat everything so goddamn easily. I got both bosses, both of the final bosses, Lucifer and the other one. I forget what it's called. It's like uh, Mecha Bar or something like that. I got them on my first try, and I needed to look up a guide for some of the side quests, but like just because they're like fucking stupid as fuck, or like I needed to look up a guide to see like where I had to go. But otherwise, like everything was so easy. Every major boss I got like my first, maybe my second try. There was maybe one or two that took three, but I can't even think of them right now. I think I got like Kogasabra both times you fought it first try. I got just like all of them on my first try. It was super easy. And yeah, that's all I have to say. It was an easy game. The end game part of the neutral route pissed me off. You have to do like 20 very specific side quests, which you get from like talking to demons or going to random hunters associations, or like walking around checking every door to do like quests where you have to take pictures. And I fucking hated it. It was so tedious, and all the quests were really bad because again, the game is piss easy. You just go, you talk to somebody, and then you do a fight, and the fight takes like 5 turns, and you just spam your high damage physical skills and your buff moves, and you win everything instantly. So yeah, I didn't really like it that much. I would probably like if I had to rank games on like a 10 out of 10 scale, which I don't really like doing. I'd probably give Strange Journey like an 8 or 9 out of 10. I really loved Strange Journey. I loved the difficulty. I loved the characters. I loved the way it told its story. Um, and I can't say that with Shin Megami Tensei 4. If I had to rank this one, I'd probably give it like a 4 or a 5 out of 10. Um, Honestly, actually, probably like a 3 or a 4. Because again, it was just so easy. Yeah, so that's all. Um, that's all. Yeah, that's all.